Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be looking at Richard Templar's Rules of Life.
Okay.
And we've got the audiobook here.
Cool.
So it's an interesting book. It's packed with
Yeah.
insights on how to craft a life that's
Yeah.
not just successful, but also fulfilling.
Absolutely. And what I think is really interesting about his approach is it's not preachy. He's not
Really?
standing on a soapbox. He's not
Yeah.
dogmatic. It's more like he's an observer of life.
Yeah.
And sharing his insights about
Yeah.
what makes people happy and fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And some of his rules are
Right.
kind of unconventional. He's got one like, it's okay to give up. And then he compares life to a pizza.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. And it really illustrates,
Yeah.
his overall philosophy that
Yeah,
life
yeah.
is a mix of,
Yeah.
delicious toppings and,
Yeah.
and some crusts.
Right.
And the key is to savor the good
Yeah.
and not get too bogged down by the less than perfect parts.
Absolutely. So our goal today is to really extract those nuggets of wisdom
Yeah.
from Templar's work and see how they
Yeah.
can apply to your
Right.
life. So we're going to break it down into
Right.
digestible pieces, focusing on the rules that resonate.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that these rules are not meant to be restrictive. Think of them more like
Right.
guidelines for making conscious choices
Right.
that lead to a more fulfilling life.
That's about empowerment, not restriction.
Exactly.
So let's jump right in. The first rule that really stood out to me
Okay.
was keep it under your hat.
Mhm.
You know, he's basically saying that personal growth is an inside job.
Right.
You focus on applying the knowledge, not
Yeah.
broadcasting it to the world.
I think that's such a good point. It's so easy to get caught up in,
Yeah.
sharing every aha moment
Right.
on social media or feeling the need to
Right.
prove how much we're growing.
Yeah.
But real transformation
Yeah.
often happens quietly
Yeah.
beneath the surface.
Makes me think of that saying, empty vessels make the most noise.
That's a good one.
You know, it's often the people who are still figuring things out who are the
Yeah.
loudest about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think there's a certain humility that comes with true growth.
Mm.
You're more open to
Mhm.
feedback,
Yeah.
more willing to admit you don't have all the answers.
Oh, so keep it under your hat is less about secrecy
Right.
and more about cultivating a quiet confidence in
That's
your
right.
own progress.
Letting your actions speak louder than words.
This next rule really resonated with me. Accept yourself.
Hmm.
Templar emphasizes self-acceptance as
Yeah.
the foundation for any kind of improvement.
Yeah.
He talks about how we often beat ourselves up for not meeting our goals
Right.
or for perceived shortcomings.
And that kind of self-criticism can be paralyzing.
Yeah.
It's hard to move forward when
Yeah.
you're constantly focused on what's wrong with you.
It's like trying to build a house on a foundation of quicksand.
Totally.
You need solid ground to build upon.
And that solid ground is self-acceptance.
Right.
It's about acknowledging who you are, warts and all,
Yeah.
and embracing that as a starting point for growth.
It's not about complacency, though, right?
Right.
It's not about saying, this is as good as it gets. It's
Reach.
more about saying, this is where I am right
Yeah.
now, and I can build from here.
And that brings us to another rule that's all about building.
Yeah.
Dedicate your life to something.
Okay.
Templar talks about the power of having a
Yeah.
mission statement,
Right.
a guiding principle that
Yeah.
gives your life purpose and direction.
He uses Disney's mission statement
Yeah.
as an example, which is to make people happy.
Hmm.
I thought that was interesting because it's so simple,
Right.
yet so powerful.
I know.
Yeah.
It's about having that North Star that guides your decisions and actions. Imagine waking up every day
Yeah.
knowing that your work, your relationships, your entire life
Yeah.
is contributing to
Yeah.
a greater purpose.
That's a great point. It's not just about
Right.
achieving success in a vacuum.
Exactly.
It's about aligning your actions with something that has
Yeah.
meaning for you.
And that meaning can be anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be grandiose or
Right.
world-changing. It could be as simple as wanting to make your family proud or wanting to leave the world
Yeah.
a little better than you found it.
So it's about taking some time to think about
Absolutely.
what matters most to you.
Yeah.
What do you want your legacy to be?
And then it's about using that as
Yeah.
a filter for your choices,
Yeah.
your actions,
Yeah.
even your relationships.
Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about a rule
Okay.
that emphasizes adaptability. Be flexible in your thinking. Templar talks about the importance of being open to
Yes.
new experiences, challenging your assumptions, and embracing change.
He uses some interesting metaphors
Yeah.
to illustrate this point, like comparing flexible thinking
Right.
to mental martial arts.
He also talks about those people who get stuck in their routines,
Oh, yeah.
you know, who always read the same kind of books,
Right.
watch the same kind of movies, eat the same kind of food. And while routine can be comforting, too much of it can lead to
Yeah.
stagnation.
Yeah.
You know, it's about being willing to step outside your comfort zone, to
Right.
try new things and to see the world from different perspectives.
It makes me think about the concept of a growth mindset.
Yes.
You know, the idea that our abilities aren't fixed,
Yeah.
that we can always learn and evolve.
And that requires a certain flexibility in our thinking,
Yeah.
a willingness to let go of old beliefs and embrace new information.
Okay, now this next rule. This is one of those that makes you stop and think.
Be on the side of the angels.
Right.
Now, Templar's talking about
Yeah.
making choices that have a positive impact on the world, both in big and small ways.
He challenges us to think about whether our actions are contributing to the solution or the problem, whether we're helping or hindering,
Yeah.
even in the smallest of interactions.
I like how he doesn't give a strict definition
Right.
of angel or beast. He leaves it up to the individual to define their own
Exactly.
ethical compass.
It's about aligning your actions with your values,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
those values may be.
Yeah.
You know, it's about being mindful
Yeah.
of the impact you have on others
Right.
and on the world around you.
And it's not just about grand gestures.
Right.
You know, it's about the everyday choices we make.
Absolutely.
Do we choose kindness over indifference? Do we choose
Yeah.
honesty over deception?
It's about recognizing that even the smallest actions
Yeah.
can have ripple effects.
Right. Now, this next rule is a bit of a wake-up call. Okay.
Only dead fish swim with the stream. Templar doesn't sugarcoat it. Life is
Yeah.
a struggle, and sometimes you have to go against the current to truly thrive.
It's a call to courage, a reminder that the easy path
Yeah.
isn't always the most fulfilling path.
Right.
You know, it's about being willing to stand up for what you believe in,
Right.
even when it's unpopular.
It's about resisting the pull of conformity, you know, the pressure to blend in
Yeah.
and follow the crowd.
And that can be scary.
Yeah.
It can feel easier to just
Yeah.
go with the flow
Yeah.
to avoid conflict and discomfort.
Right.
But that's not where growth happens.
It's like that saying, the cave you fear to enter
Yes.
holds the treasure you seek.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's in those moments of pushing against the tide,
Mm.
of challenging the status quo, that we discover our true strength and resilience.
Absolutely.
Okay. Speaking of resilience, this next rule is a gem,
Okay.
especially for those of us.
Who tend to be a bit reactive. Be the last to raise your voice.
Right.
Templar advocates for the power of remaining calm,
Yeah.
especially in challenging situations. He talks about the benefits of being known as a calm person,
Yeah.
someone who doesn't get easily rattled.
It's about being that steady presence
Right.
in the midst of chaos,
Yeah.
that voice of reason when everyone else is losing their cool.
I love this one because it's so practical.
Yeah.
You know, we can all benefit from learning how to manage our emotions, especially in high-stress situations.
And it's a skill that takes practice.
Right.
You know, it's about becoming aware of your triggers,
Yeah.
developing coping mechanisms, and learning how to respond
Right.
rather than react.
All right, let's delve into a rule that speaks to our inner wisdom. Be your own advisor.
Right.
So Templar is encouraging us to trust our intuition, to listen to that inner voice when making decisions. He believes that we all have an innate capacity for wisdom, that gut feeling that often guides us in the right direction.
It's about tuning into that quiet knowing, that inner compass that's often drowned out in the noise of the external world.
And that takes practice.
Yeah.
It's about quieting the mind, paying attention to our body's signals, and learning to discern between fear-based thinking and intuitive guidance.
Now, this next rule might sting a little,
Okay.
but it's a powerful prompt for reflection.
Right.
I wish I'd done that. Templar urges us to identify missed opportunities and use them as motivation for future action.
He's not advocating for dwelling on the past or beating ourselves up for what we didn't do. It's more about using those what-ifs as fuel for present action.
It's about acknowledging those things
Yes.
we've always wanted to do but haven't
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
And asking ourselves, what's stopping me now?
He talks about the fear of failure,
Yeah.
the fear of judgment, and the fear of the unknown as
Yeah.
common culprits that hold us back.
And he encourages us to challenge those fears, to take that leap of faith, even if it means stepping outside our comfort zone.
Because regret is a heavy burden to carry.
Right.
And often the only thing standing between us and our dreams is ourselves.
All right. Now, for a rule that might seem counterintuitive at first, it's okay to give up before you think we're advocating for quitting on your dreams.
Yeah.
Templar makes an important distinction.
Right.
He's talking about the difference between giving up because you're lazy or scared versus making the courageous decision to walk away from something that's no longer serving you.
Yeah. He uses the example of someone who keeps failing their driving test over and over again.
Right.
At some point, it's about recognizing your limitations, choosing a path that aligns with your strengths and passions.
It's about being honest with yourself about what truly matters and where your energy
Absolutely.
centers their sense.
Sometimes giving up is actually a powerful act of self-awareness and redirection.
It's about choosing your battles wisely
Yes.
and knowing when to cut your losses.
And it's about recognizing that failure is a part of life.
Right.
It's not the opposite of success.
Right.
It's a stepping stone on the path to success.
Okay, and this next rule is all about focusing our energy where it matters most.
Okay.
Change what you can change.
Right.
Templar reminds us that our time and energy are precious resources.
Absolutely.
And we shouldn't waste them on things we can't control.
He's not advocating for apathy or indifference to the world's problems.
Right.
He's simply saying that we should focus our efforts where we can make a tangible difference.
It's about recognizing our sphere of influence and maximizing our impact within that realm.
It's about choosing effective action over futile worry.
All right, and now for a rule that's all about mindfulness and presence. Don't dwell on the past. Don't live in the future.
Right.
Templar emphasizes the importance of living in the now.
Yes.
Of fully experiencing the present moment.
He reminds us that the past is gone, the future is uncertain.
Yeah.
And the only reality we have is this moment, right here, right now.
It's easy to get caught up in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future.
Oh, yeah.
But that robs us of the joy and beauty of the present moment.
It's about cultivating a sense of gratitude for what we have, for who we are, and for the simple joys of being alive.
Now, this final rule in this section is one of my favorites because it's so simple yet so profound.
All right.
Life is a pizza. Templar uses this humorous analogy to illustrate the importance of focusing on the good while accepting that.
Some things might be unpleasant.
I love how he embraces the messy reality of life.
Yeah.
You know, we all want the delicious toppings,
right?
But there are always going to be some crusts.
It's about keeping things in perspective.
Yeah.
About embracing the imperfections and focusing on the things that bring us joy.
It's a great reminder to not take ourselves too seriously.
Right.
To laugh at the absurdities of life and to savor the sweetness along with the bitterness.
So there you have it, the first set of rules from Richard Templar's Rules of Life, all about cultivating a strong foundation for a fulfilling life.
And remember, these are just a starting point.
Yeah.
The real work begins when we start to apply these principles to our own lives.
Exactly. It's not about memorizing a set of rules.
Right.
It's about taking the time to reflect on them, to see which ones resonate with you, and to see how you can integrate them into your own unique journey. And that's what we'll be exploring further in the next part of our deep dive as we delve into Templar's rules for relationships, family, friends, and navigating the wider world. So now that we've kind of covered those foundational rules for personal growth, let's dive into the realm of relationships.
Okay.
Templar dedicates a significant portion of his book to navigating those complex dynamics, starting with partnerships.
Yeah, and this is a topic I think that resonates with all of us. You know, relationships are at the heart of a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Templar offers some really valuable insights into how to build and maintain strong, healthy connections. And he starts with a rule that might seem obvious, but is often overlooked: accept the differences.
It's easy to get caught up in wanting our partners to be just like us.
Oh, yeah.
To share all our interests and opinions. But as Templar points out, those differences are actually what make relationships so enriching.
Yeah, think of it like two pieces of a puzzle.
Okay.
You know, they fit together perfectly.
Yeah.
Even though they have unique shapes, those differences bring balance and perspective.
That's such a great visual.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that saying, opposites attract.
Right.
There's a reason why we're drawn to people who complement our strengths and challenge our weaknesses.
And it's not about trying to change your partner or mold them into someone they're not. It's about appreciating those differences and recognizing that they contribute to the overall richness of the relationship.
Now, this next rule is all about going the extra mile.
Okay.
To show your partner how much you care, go that extra step.
Right.
What are some of the ways that Templar suggests?
Well, he talks about, you know, the small gestures of kindness and thoughtfulness that demonstrate love and appreciation. It could be something as simple as, you know, bringing your partner a cup of coffee in the morning or leaving them a sweet note.
It's about being intentional.
Yeah.
Making an effort to please your partner,
Right.
even in the smallest of ways.
Even in the smallest of ways.
Yeah, it's about showing them that you're thinking of them and that you value their happiness.
And it's about consistency.
Yeah.
You know, those small acts of love over time build a strong foundation of connection and trust.
Now, this next rule is crucial for any successful relationship, romantic or otherwise. Keep talking. Templar emphasizes the importance of open and honest communication.
Yes.
Both the good and the bad.
He stresses the importance of creating a safe space for sharing thoughts, feelings, and concerns without fear of judgment or criticism.
It's so easy to let things fester,
Yeah.
to avoid those difficult conversations.
Oh, yeah.
But as Templar points out,
That's a recipe for resentment and misunderstanding.
it's about addressing issues head on with respect and empathy.
Yeah.
And it's about being a good listener, truly hearing and understanding your partner's perspective, even if you don't agree with it.
This next rule really sets a high bar for how we treat our partners. Treat your partner better than your best friend.
Right. It's a powerful reminder that this is the person you've chosen to share your life with, to build a future with. They deserve the utmost respect and consideration.
It's easy to fall into patterns of taking our partners for granted.
Oh, yeah?
Of being less mindful of their needs and feelings.
Right.
This rule challenges us to prioritize our partners and make them feel valued and cherished.
And it connects back to those earlier rules about self-awareness and conscious choice. You know? It's a deliberate decision to show up for your partner in a way that
honors their worth.
Okay. The final rule in this section focuses on a concept that's often misunderstood. Contentment is a high aim.
Right.
So Templar suggests that contentment rather than fleeting happiness is a more realistic and fulfilling goal.
We live in a culture that's obsessed with happiness.
Right.
With chasing those highs and lows of intense emotion. But as Templar points out, true contentment is about finding that deep sense of peace and satisfaction in the relationship, that feeling of being at home with each other.
It's about accepting the ebbs and flows, the challenges and joys, and finding that steady ground of mutual love and respect.
It's a mature understanding of love.
Right.
One that goes beyond those initial sparks and finds its grounding in shared values and a deep connection.
Yeah. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about Templar's insights on family and friend rules. These are the people who form our support system, who enrich our lives in countless ways.
Absolutely.
He starts with a rule that might be challenging for some parents, but it's ultimately about fostering independence and resilience in their children.
Right.
Let your kids mess up for themselves. It's about giving children the space to make their own mistakes, to learn and grow through experience, even if it means a few bumps and bruises along the way.
It's natural for parents to want to shield their children from pain and disappointment. But as Templar points out, those setbacks are often the best teachers. It's about letting go a little and trusting in their ability to navigate their own path.
It's a delicate balance, though, isn't it?
Right.
We want to be there to support our children, but we also want them to develop the skills and confidence to handle challenges on their own.
Exactly. And that requires a lot of trust, both in our children and in the process of life itself.
This next rule builds on that idea of fostering independence. Give your kids responsibilities. So Templar believes that giving children age-appropriate responsibilities is key to their development.
Right.
It teaches them valuable life skills, it builds confidence, and it helps them feel like contributing members of the family.
He even shares a funny anecdote about his own son.
Okay.
Wanting to fry eggs.
Yeah.
Illustrating, a child's inherent desire for autonomy.
It's not just about getting the chores done.
Right.
It's about empowering children and fostering a sense of agency.
It's about shifting the dynamic from do as I say to we're in this together.
All right, now we're moving on to Templar's social rules, guidelines for navigating the wider world and interacting with people beyond our immediate circles.
He starts with a thought-provoking reminder that we are all more interconnected than we might realize. We are all closer than you think.
He tells a story about a friend who discovers his family history is more diverse than he initially thought, highlighting the complex tapestry of human connection.
It's a challenge to those assumptions we often make about people based on appearances or superficial judgments.
Right.
We tend to categorize people to put them in boxes.
Yeah.
But as Templar points out, we're all part of the same human family, and our stories are often more intertwined than we realize.
It's a beautiful reminder to approach others with curiosity and openness, to look for the common ground that connects us, rather than the differences that separate us.
And that leads us to a rule that's essential for successful collaboration and negotiation.
Right.
Both in our personal and professional lives.
Okay.
What's in it for them?
So this one's about understanding other people's motivations, their needs and desires, and finding ways to create win-win situations.
It's about moving beyond self-interest and considering the other person's perspective.
Right.
It's about asking, what would make this beneficial for everyone involved?
I love how practical this rule is.
Yeah.
It can apply to any interaction, from resolving a conflict with a coworker to negotiating a deal with a client.
It's about finding that common ground, that point of mutual benefit, even in situations that seem adversarial.
This next rule is all about surrounding yourself with the right kind of energy. Hang out with positive people. Templar emphasizes the impact of our social circles on our well-being and our outlook.
Yeah, he encourages us to be mindful of the people we spend our time with and to gravitate towards those who lift us up rather than drag us down.
We've all experienced those energy vampires.
Oh, yeah.
Who leave us feeling drained and depleted. And conversely, we've all encountered those radiant souls who seem to light up the room with their positivity.
It's about being intentional about who we allow into our inner circle. Who are the people who inspire us, who make us last, who challenge us to be our best selves. Those are the people we want to surround ourselves with.
It's like choosing healthy food for our minds and souls.
Exactly. And speaking of nourishment, let's move on to a rule that's all about sharing our own knowledge and expertise with others. Be generous with your time and information. Templar encourages us to share what we've learned, to mentor and support others, recognizing that knowledge is meant to be shared, not hoarded.
He emphasizes that we don't have to be experts in a particular field to have something valuable to offer.
Exactly.
It could be as simple as offering a listening ear to a friend who's going through a tough time, or sharing a skill we've learned with someone who's just starting out.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that we all have something to contribute, and that by sharing our gifts and talents, we not only help others, but also enrich our own lives.
Now, this next rule is a call to action. An invitation to engage with the world around us and make a difference, get involved. So Templar urges us to participate in activities and communities that ignite our passions, whether it's volunteering our time, joining a club, or simply getting to know our neighbors.
It's about being an active participant in life, not just a passive observer.
And it's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in creating a better world.
Absolutely.
All right, now for a rule that requires courage and integrity.
All right.
Keep the moral high ground.
Yeah. This one's about choosing integrity even when it's difficult, even when others are behaving badly.
It's about resisting the temptation to stoop to the level of those who wrong us, to retaliate or seek revenge.
It's about recognizing that true strength lies in rising above the fray, in maintaining our own sense of self-respect, even in the face of adversity.
Right. This next rule challenges a common piece of advice.
Okay.
We often hear, do compare yourself with other people. Now, before you think we're advocating for unhealthy comparisons, Templar offers a different perspective.
Right.
He suggests using positive role models as benchmarks for growth. It's not about comparing ourselves negatively or feeling inadequate, but rather using those successful people as inspiration and motivation.
It's about asking ourselves, what qualities do I admire in this person? How can I cultivate those same traits in myself?
It's about recognizing that we can learn from others, that we don't have to figure everything out on our own. All right, onto a rule that's all about independent thinking. Think for yourself.
Right.
Templar encourages us to form our own conclusions based on our own values and experiences, rather than blindly accepting other people's opinions or beliefs.
Cautions against relying too heavily on external sources for our opinions.
Right.
You know, we live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with information.
Right.
But it's important to develop our own critical thinking skills and to form our own judgments.
It's about being discerning, about questioning the information we're presented with, and about forming our own unique perspective.
It's about being an active participant in our own learning and growth.
Okay, now for a rule that can be both humbling and liberating, you are not in charge. Templars acknowledging that we don't have control over everything that happens in life.
We can't control the weather, the traffic, other people's actions. And trying to exert that control often leads to frustration and disappointment.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the best we can do is focus on what we can control. Our own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and surrender to the rest.
It's not about being passive. It's about recognizing our limitations and finding peace in the midst of uncertainty.
And now, for a rule that's all about self-compassion. Only the good feel guilty. Templar encourages us to be kind to ourselves, to forgive ourselves for our imperfections and mistakes.
We all make mistakes. We all have moments of weakness. The key is to treat ourselves with the same grace and understanding we would offer a friend.
It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress, and that making mistakes is part of the learning process.
It's about letting go of that inner critic that's constantly berating us and replacing it with a voice of kindness and encouragement.
Okay, and this last social rule might seem a bit old-fashioned, but it's actually a great practice for cultivating positivity. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
It's about choosing our words consciously and being mindful of the impact they have on others.
It's easy to get caught up in negativity, to complain about the weather, the traffic, the latest political drama, but as Templar points out, those kinds of conversations rarely lead to anything positive.
He challenges us to find the good in every situation, to focus on the positive and to spread good vibes rather than negativity.
It's about choosing to be a force for good in the world, even in the smallest of interactions.
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this section, exploring Templar's rules for navigating the complexities of relationships, family, friends, and the wider social world.
And while these rules offer valuable guidelines, I think it's important to remember that they're not meant to be rigid or prescriptive.
It's about taking these principles and applying them to our own unique circumstances, to our own unique relationships.
It's about finding what works for us and adapting these rules to fit our own individual needs and values.
And that's where the real magic happens. When we take these principles and make them our own, we can create a life that's not just successful, but truly fulfilling.
Well, we've explored a lot of really insightful rules from Richard Templar's Rules of Life, covering personal growth, partnerships, family dynamics, navigating the social landscape. It's amazing how these seemingly simple guidelines can offer such profound wisdom for living a fulfilling life. It really is. It's been fascinating to unpack these rules and see how they connect to broader concepts like self-awareness, conscious choice, the power of building strong relationships.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up our deep dive into Templar's work, is there a particular rule or concept that stands out to you as especially relevant?
You know what resonates most strongly with me is Templar's emphasis on the power of conscious choice.
Okay.
You know, these rules aren't about rigid adherence. They're about recognizing that we have agency in shaping our own lives.
Yeah.
Each day we make countless decisions, big and small, that determine the course of our journey.
It's a really powerful point.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to feel like we're at the mercy of circumstances, but Templar reminds us that we have more control than we often realize.
Absolutely.
We have the power to choose our thoughts, our actions, and ultimately the kind of life we want to create.
And those choices, even the seemingly insignificant ones, add up over time.
Yeah.
You know, they create a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves, influencing our relationships, our communities, even the world around us.
It's like that butterfly effect we hear about in chaos theory.
Exactly.
The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in one part of the world can eventually cause a hurricane in another.
Their choices matter.
Yeah.
Even the seemingly small ones.
And I think Templar's work offers a valuable framework for making those choices with intention and awareness.
It's about aligning our actions with our values and aspirations, about living a life that reflects our deepest truths.
It's about being deliberate about the kind of person we want to be, the kind of relationships we want to cultivate, the kind of impact we want to have on the world.
And that's a journey that requires ongoing reflection and self-awareness. It's about constantly checking in with ourselves, asking, am I living in alignment with my values?
Yeah.
Am I making choices that support my growth and well-being?
It's about being honest with ourselves.
Yes.
About acknowledging where we might be falling short and about making those course corrections along the way.
And that's where Templar's rules can be so helpful. They offer those guideposts, those reminders to stay true to ourselves, to treat others with kindness and respect, and just strive for a life that's not just successful, but deeply meaningful.
Well, it's been an incredibly insightful journey exploring Richard Templar's rules of life. And I hope our listeners have found some nuggets of wisdom that they can apply to their own lives.
I would encourage everyone listening to take some time to reflect on the rules we've discussed, to see which ones resonate most strongly with you, and consider how you might integrate them into your own unique journey.
It's not about memorizing a list of rules. It's about taking those principles and making them your own. It's about finding what works for you and adapting those guidelines to fit your own individual needs and values.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There's no finish line to cross, no perfect state of being to achieve. It's about continuous growth, about striving to be the best version of ourselves day after day.
Beautifully said. And that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Richard Templar's rules of life.
Absolutely.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for that fulfilling life you deserve.